Greetings, viewers. Welcome to yet another computer build video, which is going to center around this case right here, which I believe was manufactured by HEC. You see it's got all these stickers on it. These are actually stickers from the old thing that it did. Well, these two anyway. These are very old stickers from the original motherboard. That would have been in here. We're going to use this as the basis for a firewall. Right now this case is completely, well, almost completely empty. Take a look here. We do have a power supply that is still here, which is good. But there's no motherboard, and there's nothing else really plugged into this. So let me go ahead and take these screws off, and we'll take a closer look inside the case. Okay, opening this thing up, I actually pulled out the power supply temporarily because it'll make it easier to install this motherboard to not have that giant glut of cables sitting in here. You can see, pretty standard. We've got one 5¼ inch bay, which I will be putting an optical drive in because I don't want that to stay open and I don't have the blank for that. And it looks like you get two 3½ inch drive bays with this. One of them external facing, the other one not. Well, it looks like they thought about making a version of this case that did have two external facing 3½ inch bays. There's a case fan in the front, which I believe even still works. 4 shorter, small form factor style expansion slots there. Place for the I/O plate. It's got this little thing in the middle of it that I'm going to take out when I install the board. It's also got this little positioning standoff here, which is pretty nice to see. It has front panel 1394, which I actually will be able to use. Not that I'll have a use for it in this system. HD audio, and of course the USB. As far as actual hardware that's going to go in here, well, it's not an Asus H110M-C. It's actually this right here, an Intel DQ77MK with a Core i5-2300 CPU. It's got 8 gigs of RAM installed, which should be more than enough for anything I'm going to do with it. It's got the I/O shield, of course. It's 1394, which I didn't even realize this board had. This one has also got USB 3.0, but we won't be able to take advantage of that because the system does not have USB, or the case does not have USB 3.0. It's too old for that. I do have one that does, but I'd rather use that for a newer system that would need a bigger power connector, because the power supply in that case has a 8-pin CPU power connector. The OS drive is going to be one of these, just an Apacer 40GB SATA flash drive. Here's the optical drive. Again, nothing special, just a DVD. Actually, it's a DVD-RW. I don't have anything worse than that. I wasn't going to waste a Blu-ray drive on this. It seems like a lot of the drives I've got laying around at this point are Blu-ray drives. Might put one of those in my main rig and then take that Asus drive that's in that and put that in something else. But I can't really say that I've ever used Blu-rays either. And then I've got some SATA cables, of course, because we're going to need those. So let's get started by installing the motherboard. Okay, there is the motherboard installed. All the screws in place. I/O plates there. I've also put this DVI to VGA adapter on it because that's going to be a pretty much permanent fixture on this. Because let's face it, not very much I own has DVI. Certainly nothing for a server. So, next step, I'm going to hook up all this lovely front panel stuff. Okay, there's all the front panel stuff hooked up. Cable managed in the exact correct way. That's how you're supposed to do cable management, you see. I've also got the SATA cables plugged in just fine. The optical drive is going to get a SATA 3 connection because I don't think it's any better than that anyway. And then the SSD gets the SATA 6 gig. That's right there. Okay, here's the finished product. You can see optical drive installed, SSD installed, and this power supply also installed. This thing is crammed in there almost like an oyster can, but It's not as bad as some systems I've seen. I've got the fan hooked up to the front fan header, because that's what it is. It's not like it's going to do much with this giant glut of cables in the way. But I guess it's there. So now I just got to find a keyboard, plug it in, and see if this thing actually even works at all. Okay, jumping ahead quite a bit, here is the system running. I've already set up the BIOS as it should be. You can see the i5 CPU, 8 gigs of RAM. Date and time is correct. This was running Linux last, so that's in UTC. So it is correct. Both Ethernet adapters are enabled. Which one is the primary, I don't actually know, but it doesn't really matter. Everything is seen and accounted for. So, this should boot to the optical drive with any luck. That's where it will go, and we'll install what we need to install, which is IPFire. Something different, because this has got some hardening things, and since this is going to basically be an internet-facing device, that's how I wanted it to go. Plus, you know, it's something different, we'll give it a try, and I'm trying to migrate away from PFSense, because it's kind of not very good. So, or at least it used to be good, but they've kind of ruined their whole model. They don't really release updates anymore unless you own one of their devices and pay for support, which I would do if it wasn't so expensive and I didn't already have all these other things. Start installation. I accept this license. We'll now prepare the chosen disk. Well, it's the only disk on the machine. Delete all data. We'll go for the standard. I don't really need to do anything else. It should be pretty quick. It's a pretty small ISO too. It's only like, it was less than 400 megabytes. So I'll let it do its thing here, and then I'll come back when it's done. Okay, successfully installed. Reboot. So, we'll let it start. We'll see if I actually know how this is configured. US keyboard. Well, I don't know why it would... If I set it to US, I don't know why it keeps setting it to someplace in Europe. It does that all the time. Pretty funny, really. I'm going to go all the way up. America, Toronto. Hostname. I'm going to have to come up with something here. Okay, so there's definitely some confusion with IPFire and the way that it's set up, because they don't really tell you much of anything about what you're doing. You just kind of have to read their guidelines, I guess, and understand it. So, here's what we've got going on. There are 4 possible networks that you can have with this. And they're labeled with colors. And that's the only thing that you see on that thing over there. You just see the colors. There are 3 different possible configuration options. The standard one has green and red in that order, which is actually backwards, but whatever. So this is what we've got going on right now. I've got a green and a red. Now, I'm going to actually have to go back here, because, again, I've made some assumptions about how this works that are not correct. Oh, good lord. Cancel. We'll set done. So here we go. This is the information that you get. So you have green and red, that's your standard. Then you can add the orange, which according to that is a demilitarized zone, which basically has no firewalling at all. You could also have a blue, which is for wireless, which I don't have. And you can have both. We're going to leave it at the standard. Drivers and card assignments. Again, I don't know which one of these is which, so I'm going to make the assumption that I've got it connected right. So I've assigned them both. Oops, that... Done. Stupid thing. Address settings. For the red, we're looking at DHCP. DHCP hostname is that. Okay, come on. What is going on here? Okay. Green. I'm going to have to set an address. We'll do it that way. Sure. Hit done. And now we're done with that. Configure the DHCP server. Alright, I'm going to continue with this setup. Okay, with this now booted and everything set up correctly, you can see I definitely have the interfaces backwards. I've got a computer out here so we can take a look at the web interface. So now we're going to set this up the way that it needs to be done. GUI settings. Have a system information. Your profile is not submitted into the Fire Info service. No, I don't really want to send that to them. There's all this stuff. Now I'm just going to have to configure this. We'll see how we can configure this. We got a basic configuration going. Like, I can plug a device in, I can plug a switch in, and this will work. It's getting an IP address. I can even go to the internet if I really want to. You know. Can access my website and everything, so it seems to be working. So I just gotta go through the web interface on this, and I'm not really gonna go over how to configure this kind of thing. But there we go. There's our basic setup done. I just gotta get this moved over and put it into place where it needs to go. Stay tuned. You won't have to wait a minute thanks to the magic of video editing. Okay, just to finish this off here, now that it's been probably about at least 6 months. It's been quite a while, so I figure we probably should finish up this video. Here it is. It is running. The LED is just not very visible. And it's been running without flaws. So, I did add one more thing. You can see there I've added a USB Ethernet, so that way I could have this for a guest router. So that way I don't have to give my Wi-Fi password out to everybody. I think, if I remember right, I've actually got a card over here. Let's see, yes. I have this that I probably will go ahead and add instead of the USB one, but that'll have to come later. So basically it just sits here and it runs. There's nothing really to it. Works fairly well. Haven't had a problem with it. The internet equipment is down there, so that's why this is here as opposed to over here in the server rack. But yeah. See, that's quite busy. I'm gonna have to clean that up here soon because I'm gonna be redoing parts of this network. Before I go, here's a shot of the web admin console as it appears now. See, everything there is connected, and there's my wireless right there. Even though it's not wireless, you could actually do that if you have a supported wireless card, but it's easier to just use a router for that. Then I don't have to worry about whether or not a wireless card's supported. I do have one more thing I will have to do. I don't know if you'll have seen the video yet, but there's a video of me replacing my NTP, or my print server. I have to change the address there, but well, whatever the case may be, that's pretty much it for that. I don't know if I said, because I don't remember what all I said I was going to do in this video, because it was like 6 months ago. Don't remember if I said I'd go through the web admin console, how to configure it. I'm not going to do that, because everybody's situation is different. So, sorry if I got your hopes up. But, yeah, that's pretty much it for this video of my new firewall.